Hi, welcome to another stream. We've got a bit to talk about, which I've got my little list on the side there. But yeah, we're going to get through it because there's some bits that have been playing on my mind and obviously I want to talk about it. So yeah, let's make sure that's nice and focused. Should be alright. So we've got the AMD 5000 series CPUs, RTX 3080, 20GB, Rdna 2, and that's what we're going to be talking about. And basically a few little other bits I'm going to put in there as well into the stream. If you want to ask any questions, ask some questions, ask away. But I hope everyone's doing all great today because it's nice just to feel good in once. And there's loads of things to feel good about if you've got the money there and everything's not going to be too expensive. But yeah, my first talk is the 3090 is 30% more faster than the 3080, but will cost at the moment 80 to 90% more. So what I mean by this is the RTX 3080-90. What I've seen so far, what I've heard, and I've heard some other different things. I've done some investigation and stuff like that, and the 3090 will only perform that much more in performance, but also cost 80 to 90% more because obviously it's £1,500, I think. You know what? I can't remember how much it is. It's definitely a considerable amount compared to what the RTX 3080 is. But then I'm thinking as well, like I said in my other streams, is that there's an RTX 3080 Super or TI or TI, whatever you want to call it, will be coming out. So if it outperforms, then it's going to kind of mess up Nvidia's brackets of graphics GPUs that are out as well, which doesn't make sense. They did throw a couple of graphics cards under the bus. It was very overstacked with different gigabyte models for the GTX range, especially the 1050s and the 1060s. There's 3 gigabytes. I think there's a 4 gigabytes. There's a 5 gigabyte, 6 gigabyte variations, and different, obviously, third party board partners had them. And yeah, it was crazy back then, but it looks like they were competing with everything. So I think being an RTX 3080 is got that real big strong performance at the moment. It looks really nice, graphics card, but it's not about how nice it looks, it's about the performance. What can it actually bring to the table? Now, if I believe that the 3090 is only going to be, it's obviously going to be 80 to 90% more in money, I don't know whether that's a marketing skill or marketing stunt, I should say, where they put out all these graphics cards and they get you to buy them. They put it out to the certain reviewers that are going to get sponsored by them and get the graphics card really nice and early, and obviously talk about performance but not really test stuff. These graphics cards are meant to be talking about ray tracing. They're the new version. You've got DLSS, you got ray tracing on and off, and then you got upscaling and compute units, and it's on 8 nanometers of board or die, I should say, and there's different modules that we can put on there. There's even shunt resistors that you can definitely pump more power into a graphics card and make it more faster. I think they did do that with the RTX 2080 Ti. I cannot remember though. There's so many different variations of everything. So what 3090, if there's a 3080 comes out, there's a 3080 20 gig model comes out, then obviously that's got to be faster than the 3080, and it's got to be between the 3090. But if the 3090 only stretches only to 15 to 10%, even you get an extra 10 to 11 frame rates per second on certain games with the drivers that are out now, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So the 3090's either got to be really powerful, or it's not got Nvidia could be doing something where they're undervolting the graphics card, or not putting the drivers out to go its fastest speed, or the wattage is not given enough for the graphics card, because the 2080 Ti needed more power to be able to do things and go further. And it was slightly overclocked, but you couldn't overclock it that far. And that means as well, if you can overclock a 3080 graphics card and you get the same sort of performance as the 3090, then it's not really worth going for the 3090, is it? So it's very up in the air. I don't know what to make of it. But all I do know is that we're going to talk and talk and talk, and then we're going to come to a conclusion at the end and see what we think. But there is definitely a 3080 20 gig model coming out, and I don't know whether it's going to be a Ti or Ti or Super version, but it's definitely coming out. How are you today? AMD will be launched the Ryzen Generation 5 and has support for motherboards. Yeah, already know about that. We're going to talk about that. I've got a bit of information about that. It's very interesting. But also, at the moment, it's like these graphics cards coming out, they're going to need no bottlenecking to be able to perform further. It's 2080 Ti's, you can put them on the newer motherboard CPUs and they're performing that little bit better. But also good news for the 2080 Ti people as well, like me. I'll be talking about that. But does it sound worth it to you guys about the percentage? Does it sound a bit confusing? Nvidia seems like they've got an ace up their sleeve as well, if you look at it like that. Because if they've got a 20 gig version, it's definitely going to be pushing that performance. The 3090 needs to be stretched a bit like the 2080 from the 2080 Ti. It's got to be able to do that to make sense. It really does in my eyes. If it does not make sense, then it's going to be overlapping each other. And I don't think Nvidia are going to be that stupid. Even though we had a pretty crap launch. It's really crazy. I'm just confused with the whole launch. Is there going to be a Ti version and a Super version? I don't know whether to wait or try and get the 3080. You need to wait. You should wait, Joey Rocks. It's definitely worth waiting because you've got the new AMD CPU to come out. But we also need to be checking different benchmarks for different reviewers, because technically you could buy all the graphics cards you want right now, and then all of a sudden they drop a 3080 Ti in your lap. Well, not on your lap, but in front of you, and then you'll be pretty gutted that that's got even more stronger performance for probably a little bit more money. And then you would have just thought it would have been better just to wait, but you already went out and bought one. So my job as a reviewer is to tell people to wait and check all other reviewers and then come to a conclusion all at the same time, because certain people do get paid to do reviews and say certain things and play games and make it look really good. We've got ray tracing or tentacles, whatever, and then we've got compute units. And I know for the PlayStation and Xbox looks more favourable, but it's got higher compute units. This is what we're going to talk about. I've been working stuff out. It's really quite crazy. But it also sounds like a lower end card. So if you look at the 3080 and the 3070, they look like lower tier cards, even though they're new technology, new this and more improved that. But technically, in my eyes, I feel like it's a lower tier card, because then you've got the Ti or the Ti, and then you've got the Supers coming out. Excuse me. So if you look at it like this, because we've got the 20 gig models coming out, plus there at the moment there's 10 to 15% increase in speed as well for overclocking, which is not that great for a 3080. But it does give you a slight boost. But it depends on if you just want the fastest graphics card in the world. You can have the fastest graphics card in the world. But technically, they're always going to bring out something else and newer and faster. I really don't know as well. There's BIOS switches as well on the graphics cards. Now, I know on my 2080 Ti Strix card that I've got a BIOS... what have I got? A BIOS switch on there. And I don't even use it. It can straighten out the fan curve and all this sort of stuff, make it more cooler, get better performance and stuff like that. And I forget about this. I actually forget about this, but they got them on the 3080, and the 3080 is just basically a low-end card to me. Even though you're going to have the 3060, probably a 3050 cards coming out, I feel that it's still a low-end sort of graphics card. I know Nvidia are really quite out there with the performance and technology, but I don't know. It just seems a bit weird. It will seem, if a 3090 can only go a few frame rates per second more for that price, it doesn't seem worth it. And I can't imagine they'll bring a 3080 Ti or Super or whatever, and it outdoes a 3090. But it's possible, or up to 3090, but that means you're only getting an increase of 4%. Doesn't make no sense to me whatsoever. Joey Rock says, I'm making a switch from the console to a PC. I'm really sure I'm buying. Not sure I'm buying. But now I know I have a £3,000 budget. That's good, man. If you've got a £3,000 budget, you got a lot of opportunities of what you can do. But technically, you don't need to spend £3,000 unless you're doing it as content creation as well, where you're going to make money from it. Because like computers just get outdated very quickly. There's always like there's no such thing as future proof anymore other than power supplies. Power supplies not too bad. Nvidia launched RTX 3090 with 24GB VRAM. How about the RTX 4090 with 48GB? I think Nvidia, if launched the GPU RTX 4090, will make jokes about the 3090 about how slow. Trust me, if they ever done anything like that, there's going to be a war in their hands with the civil rights movement. If you look at it like this, if you think that the 3070 was bad, that it's even more powerful than the 2080 Ti, and people are really annoyed about Nvidia, think about if a 3060 comes out and all the other graphics cards come out after that as well. A 3060 is going to probably have ray tracing on there, and they'll probably do a variant where it have a little bit more memory bust on it, and probably be able to overclock it slightly a little bit. But no, the power source might be a little bit lower though, definitely. But it's up to Nvidia what they do, and that would really throw a spanner in the works for people, 2080 Ti owners. I wouldn't be so bothered about it because I know it's coming and it's just the way it is. I use the PC for work also, so I'll be getting rid of the current MacBook. But yeah, technically it'd be good for content creation. I definitely agree with that. Right, let's move on. Also, with the PCs, when you get the PC set up, so power supply needs to be efficient to make sure it's stable enough to give the graphics card more power and stuff like that. The drivers need to be pretty decent, because the drivers and the BIOS firmware and all that are going to be just like the first set, and you're going to be getting that lower performance, and then we're going to have a few months of working out the drivers, and then Nvidia's going to be sending them out, in which Nvidia are very good at sending out drivers, and then obviously other drivers as well for like your computers, like systems like your NVMe, motherboard, like for the lanes, make sure everything's running at its highest performance, and then obviously making sure that heat dissipation is working really well with the CPUs, not running too hot and all that sort of stuff. It's got to be pretty like balanced. If it's balanced, then you can kind of get a base mark and then work out that way. The thing is, all these like leaks, rumors, and other people reviewing stuff, you don't really know what they've been using. The only person I can get close to with knowing what they're talking about is Gamers Nexus. It literally just shows you everything, how everything goes. With other people, they're just showing you like, oh, we've got this test bench, but they're not telling you exactly what kind of die they're using on their RAM. It might be like more efficient, more faster, more better, you know, like Nvidia's using Samsung die, which is on 8nm, and yeah, that is going to be pretty cool. It's obviously showing it's pretty cool with the results. But if you look at not NVMe, if you look at, well, yeah, you can look at NVMe as well, I guess. Samsung is really good as well with their what's it called, NAND flash. And then you look at AMD 7nm as well. It's like they just keep pushing forward, and they're going to be pushing forward for 5nm as well. It's just crazy. They're going to be trying to put all of these little modules on there and transistors and making more compute units as well for the graphics cards. If there's more computer units, it's going to be ridiculous. It's just going to see like another level of gaming. It's just ridiculous. It's just crazy. Right, let me answer these few questions here. Right, I have a question for you about the Nvidia Rtx 2080. Jokes and appear the Spanish man who says jokes. Oh, right, don't get it. I'm going to get someone to put parts together for me and then pay them to build it. Also considering it's the first build, don't want to break anything. Haha. You won't break your first build. Hey, Donnell. You won't break your first build. You just got to literally just have a look at some reviewers. I've got millions of videos of how to build like custom water cooling PCs, CPU cooling PCs, just NVMe's, SSDs, overclocking your RAM, overclocking your CPU, overclocking your graphics card, extreme overclocking, extreme like sorting out black screens of death, blue screens, all kinds of stuff. Just jump in and just do it. This is what this is all about at the end of the day. I found an article about EVGA making in the past motherboards for AMD, and now what they say that makes today motherboards for AMD and GPU. What? I found an article about EVGA make in the past motherboards for AMD, and now what they don't make today motherboards for AMD and GPU and What do you mean? Do you mean like when it comes down to graphics cards and motherboards? Like motherboards obviously have more like at one stage Gigabyte was putting more copper on their motherboards, putting the price up a little bit, but also winning everything because it had more copper to dissipate heat and it ran cooler. Do you mean stuff like that, or like the graphics cards made got different size fans on there and it breathes better and exhausts heat and depends if it's a blower style fan and all that? Is that what you're talking about? AMD is so heated. I did a kick out with them with AMD CPU. Is okay. Ryzen 3600 RTX 3080 650 watts. Right, I keep getting asked these sort of questions. Now, if you look at it, yeah, all the new generation of CPUs and graphic cards, motherboards, and NVMe that comes out, there's a reason for it. It's because you don't really want to have a bottleneck. Now, it will work, but it doesn't. It might be a slight few difference of frame rates per second if you're gaming, but real world results, rather than looking at synthetic benchmarks, which is just like everything utilizes at its full potential, not everyone's going to be exactly the same. Now, if I've got a computer, I've built a computer with a CPU, motherboard, NVMe, and I've got a normal graphics card, and I've got a massive case, and I've got all the fans for it, and I know exactly how to do my fan curves and keep it cool. Then someone else will build a computer similar to mine, but it will have different silicone on it. They will have like might be a different version dated for their NVMe, might be made earlier, which will have either worse silicone or better silicone, or they might have got it cheaper at Amazon or overclockers or whatever. It's always this difference in price, but it's a different quality. It's a bit like memory. Memory, everyone thinks, oh, right, AMD said 3200, let's run it at 3200 for the CPU to run really well. And then they start running it, but there's different like die that's on the actual memory and different timings, so you can get that slightly a bit more of an edge, a bit more performance, especially if it's cooled right and that as well. Not the memory cooled right, but if you're overclocking the memory, obviously you do need to cool it down, but it's like the least thing that you have to worry about. NVMe, you definitely have to worry about that because that gets pretty hot. Not as hot as a CPU, but it definitely gets hot as a GPU, so that's definitely needs to be cooled. I might have to try and follow one of your tutorials, Ben. Just need to make sure I get all the correct parts. Yeah, it's no problem at all, man. There's loads of videos, thousands of videos I've done over the years. By the way, how much did the new GPU require power to run 800 power supply or 1200 watt supply? Well, as you see, you might be able to see some other videos. Hopefully there's some videos out there now where people can test like PSUs pretty well and stuff. And what they've done is they tested it with old architecture components with new tech architecture components. And I'll tell you what, the difference is that it definitely, I was right at the end of the day, that you need more power supply to give more to the graphics card, and more newer technology works much better to giving you more frame rates per second. But in real world results, for me, I like to have a couple of tabs open. Actually, I've got probably about 50 tabs open. I've got a couple of screens. That's another thing as well. Oh, there's so many things to talk about. It would actually blow my own mind about talking about this. But yeah, you've got different types of HDMI ports as well. So you can get 144 hertz. You can get 60 hertz, 70 hertz or 75 hertz, 100 hertz, 120 hertz, 144 hertz, 240 hertz, and 360 hertz. And if you've got different types of monitors, you get different types of polygons and like graphic things happening. It's like it's sharing bandwidth, and it's like really difficult and very complex for me trying to explain it. But I do have like 4 screens set up, and some of them are different sizes and different speeds and specs. It's just it's another conversation for all of that. But yeah, let me just carry on what we're talking about now. So let's move on to we talk about Xbox really quickly now. So we also know that the Xbox coming out with the AMD CPU and the new Rdna 2 in there is what's meant to be like 8 times faster than the Xbox One. So the GPU. So that is equivalent to a AMD 7790 GPU, which is equivalent of 8 GTX 1050s to 1050 Ti's, depending on what model we're talking about. So there's a bigger memory bump. So let's say like you got the 3 gig or 4 gig models, TI and non-TI. It's a mixture of difference because you've got different cooling properties as well on the graphics card. So which is whatever is going to be cooler to be able to get that more performance. So if your graphics card is running hot, you will not get that performance. It's a bit like a laptop. A laptop's like, wow, you get the fastest laptop in the world, yeah? And it's got like the best GPU on it and getting the best graphics cards and the best gaming when it's plugged in. When you take it out, that percentage like throttles down. Now with the Xbox and the PlayStation, what I know is that when it's all plugged in and it's all running all right, there is no limitations on that CPU. So I think it's Zen 2 or Zen 3, I can't remember what CPU it is, and there's no limitations on that graphics card. So no throttling down if it gets hot, no throttling up, no boost or nothing like that. But for the desktop CPUs, the difference is that we can throttle down manually or automatically and boost up as well. So that's the difference of those desktop CPUs, and obviously the GPU can do that as well, which means that it can keep cool and get different fan curve. And we do need to talk more scientific about these fan curves, because most people just think building a computer, you build a computer and it's done, but it's not. It's you got a lot of things to do to get things running properly, especially drivers. With drivers as well, you can put all like a new BIOS update, new driver update, and your performance could go down, or you'll have to dial back to obviously do that. It's a bit like overclocking. You overclock until the maximum capacity of what things are going on, and then when you start to see it start to artifact on the actual screen, you know that you have to dial back to make it more sensible, and then you look at the temperatures and make sure that you're not overdoing it, because if you're doing it, it doesn't last very long. So that sort of stuff. But anyway, let's talk about Xbox still. The Xbox is got the 7790, which is equivalent to 8 GTX 1050s, and if you look at it like this, you need 4 1050s Ti's to be equivalent of 1060. So cutting the story short, the graphics card that is in the Xbox with the equivalent that I would think over the time and the pattern and all the knowledge that I know, I think it was like an RTX 2060 or between a GTX 1070 Ti and a 1080 Ti. But it depends on what games it's working, its properties properly. So yeah. Let's just say an RTX 2060 is the equivalent of what's in the Xbox. The new Xbox is going to come out. But Microsoft is working with AMD, so they can make the games as well, and some of the technology work more in AMD's favour. It's a bit like Intel had Adobe and they worked together and it worked so much faster, especially with CUDA cores. So having a CPU with Intel and having Nvidia had better CUDA cores to render stuff out faster. You never really heard it about AMD, but it still worked. Oh, right. Let me just ask a few questions. Oh my god, there's quite a few here. So, is it okay with the Ryzen 3600 RTX 3080 to run on 650 watts, 80 plus? Yes, of course it is. But you be limiting what it can do. It's just simple. Where are we? 750 watts is recommended, they say. What, for the 3080? But then you got the 3090 as well coming out. Okay, man, Ty. Mean Ty. Fanboy Gaming. Fanboy Gaming. I tell you what, Nvidia, AMD, well, the blue team, it's like it's racist. Green. I don't care if you're green. I don't care if you're blue. I don't care if you're red. And what's the other colour? Is that all the colours? Intel were probably going to bring something to the table anyway eventually. But yeah, I've got something to talk about that as well. Thanks for the info. Nice one. 8 times. Jesus, that's a boost in performance. Yes. But look at it like this. You got to think ahead of the time. We're in 2020 right now. So if you think about it, if the Xbox and PlayStation, there's taken a while to come out anyway. By the time they've come out, they're going to still be outdated. But it's the way that it's been put together. You got to think, for $299, the Xbox is a clear winner. And it's going to be crazy. This is going to affect some of Nvidia's prices because people are going to just go ahead and buy an Xbox. But because of the climate that we're in now, people have had time to think, oh, I played on a PC, I've gone around my cousin's house, I played on my brother's computer, played on my sister's computer. Wow, it's actually so much better than the PlayStation Xbox. But when this new PlayStation Xbox comes out, obviously there's going to be a war between PlayStation Xbox with the games and that. But Microsoft seem to be doing very well, but they're a very huge company and they just nick stuff from actual Xbox for PC. They're like, I'm taking that game, we're going to put it on PC now, but PCs come so far, but remember, you can plug everything in. But as I was saying the other day, when it comes down to like if they could change a graphics card out or a CPU out, but it's like a third party sort of like version, like their hard drives. The hard drives are made in a way where you can't really tamper with it. But back then, you could tamper with a normal mechanical hard drive and put SSD in and make it faster. But it depended on the software how it worked. But anyway, that's just all mad science right there. But yeah, what do you think about the Ryzen Threadripper 3990? Don't know. Can we run programs to make games? Can we run programs to make games? No, I don't really know about that CPU. I haven't really looked at it. Because technically all I'm talking about is gaming at the moment and content creation. When you start stepping over into that realm, you're talking about much higher prices, which is out of the price pocket of people for gaming, and then it doesn't really utilize and works too much as a gaming computer. But what it would do is have slightly more cores, if that's a thing, that CPU, WX, can't remember what CPU that is. It'll have more, so you can have all these tabs open, have streaming going on, and also be gaming at the same time. It'd be quite good. You still get your little price performance as well at the same time. But in my eyes, I think dual PCs are going to be the way forward. They're very complex to obviously set up, but I think it's going to be the way forward because technically you can just split down the CPUs and split down the graphics cards. I think there was someone talking about, is a 3080 going to be more powerful than a dual PC? Well, hell no, because I can go up to like 120 or I think it's 128 or 256 gigabytes on each motherboard just on memory. And I can go with 2 different types of CPUs and 2 different types of graphics cards. But we're going to get to that. We're going to start talking about some graphics cards as well. It's a little bit crazy. No problem, mate. Right, where are we? Yeah, so if that's the equivalent, right? So a 1060, GTX 1060, that's pretty decent, would beat a 1050 Ti, which will be 2 of them. That's just crazy. But yeah, we talked about the Xbox. The Xbox is going to have a newer generation, so it's got the Rdna 2 GPU in it, and then we've got, I think, Zen 2 or Zen 3, I can't remember, but it's a custom version, so they customize it for the console. Now that's all locked, and then obviously the PC is not. So it's all nuts. It's all nuts. But I can't wait until they bring that out. But think about it, PCs are going to be always ahead. Now, I like Xbox, I like PlayStation, and I like, obviously, PCs. But I don't see the point of me jumping onto an Xbox or PlayStation. But I'm probably going to end up buying them anyway because I need to obviously talk about it and I need to make sure I'm knowledgeable of like how long these things last and stuff. But they say 5 to 7 years that console's going to be. That's going to be out of date next year. Do you know that's going to be out of date next year because we're going to see Big Navi as well on top. That might be out this year. It's all going to be like flowing through, and you're gonna have Intel coming back trying to fight as well, Nvidia as well. And then like the console market's gonna be kind of overridden. But the way that the climate is at the moment, PCs seem to be the way forward to get content creation done, get work done, and game at the same time, all under one house. And if something goes wrong, remember, something goes wrong with a Xbox or PlayStation, you have to send the whole thing back. If something goes wrong with a PC and you've built it, you know that it could be the graphics card, the RAM, or whatever. You can swap it out from some other different computers or whatever, and you're cool. That's a good thing. But anyway, we also need to maybe see about the Titan graphics card, yeah, because I haven't seen or heard about Nvidia bringing Titan graphics card out. Remember, like a while back, reviewers didn't get a Titan graphics card because they didn't want to specialize that as a gaming graphics card high end. They wanted to do that as more of like a work going into the industry with their pro graphics cards. I can't remember what their pro graphics cards are even called, but yeah, that was kind of like where they are. So what does it mean now? Well, I haven't heard anything about the Titan graphics card. I ain't even looked and just thought about it just now. So I'm thinking, what's going to be next when it comes down to what you call it? What's going to be next when it comes down to the Titan graphics card, the RTX graphics card, or if it's even going to be called a Titan graphics card? But that, I think, if there's not going to be a 39 Ultra, there will be a Titan or something like that, and that would be going into content creation as well as gaming and streaming. And you know, like their graphics cards right now seem to be all built around, even like the RTX 2080, 2080 Ti. I think a couple more backwards, can't remember, but they've got that sound quality as well, where they can literally, like if I've got a fan in the background or noise, it can literally dampen that sound out, and it's just completely just like my voice. It's crazy what they can do with this architecture. But anyway, let's move on. Nvidia are taking very big leaps and still have their AI machine learning, and remember they're also into Tesla cars, so they're also moving in all spaces, trying to keep in front. Now, Nvidia's always been in front for ages. They don't just sit on their butts and let things happen and be overruled. They're always doing things, but what they do, which annoys me, is that they charge a lot of money. But at the end of the day, if people are going to pay for it, then they can do that. It's a business, so I can't take it away from them. But as a gamer and a reviewer and a consumer as well, I think it's out of order. But it works, and that's what works, brings in more money at the end of the day, and they do have more money to obviously play around and do things. Right, so, and with the AI space and machine learning, I think we're going to start to see different things, especially with technology like Amazon Alexa being mixed in with PC stuff. I think next year, because you've got Bixby and Samsung, you can see it's all built into TVs. I think Xbox, PlayStation might even have like little add-ons and stuff to make the technology more far easier to use, and voice activation. And obviously machine learning, you walk in and it might turn lights on. You know, you don't know what's going to happen with what Xbox and PlayStation can do. They did have a lot of technology, and I did like what they've done, but it looks like old tech now. But what I'm seeing now, especially with how fast we're going into the future with new GPUs and CPUs, and how small the dies are getting, which means that we can add more on. Oh, that's another thing as well. I'm a little bit confused as well with AMD, because AMD also have lower power consumption as well, especially in Xbox and PlayStation. So I'm thinking, will we have a lower, lower power ratio in like in a desktop PC as well? It'll be more better for the environment, but does people really care about that? They do and they don't, because at the end of the day, if you want more power and you want to render things really quickly, then obviously you're going to need more power, so it's going to... Anyway, we won't talk about that. Right, let's move on. So, AMD also have ray tracing too. They have ray tracing. So it's set to be in the new GPUs. It's going to be in the Xbox as well. I don't know if it's going to be in PlayStation. I can't remember. I didn't look too tough in PlayStation, but with Xbox, because it's more the PC Microsoft sort of side, I started looking a bit more into that. But yeah, it's going to have ray tracing. So we're going to have ray tracing, but are we going to just have entry level ray tracing like last year's ray tracing from, or not last year, the 2 years ago, from Nvidia? Or because are they trying to match them, or are they gonna be like, yes, let's smash them out the window and get a ray tracing done? Because with the ray tracing at the moment, there's so much to talk about. There's some really good bits coming down. I'm gonna keep going. Let's keep it moving. Right, let me just answer this question real quick. when Intel say in 2015 they make the CPU in 10 nanometer, but no, they make the CPU on 14 nanometer, and today it's 4 nanometer. I want to see Intel make a CPU on 10 nanometer or 10 or 7 nanometer like AMD. It's just lazy. I don't think it's lazy. I just think Intel are not there yet. Intel are a very massive company, but they were sitting on their butts. You can see by the production and their marketing. They were so like, they were in the boomer level of doing stuff. They literally woke up and AMD started catching up and then overtook them and overthrown them. But obviously they have got some sort of graphics cards that's still decent. So I can't really say too much about it. But this is another like little like story. So back in the day, when I was into computers and stuff, this is going very, very far back, but Intel and AMD Athlon, right, so people used to turn around and used to say to me, get Intel, it's really good. Intel advertised that they had like dual core CPUs, I think just before, obviously quad core, obviously it was, and they had said it was like running at 2.2 gigahertz or 1.8 gigahertz. And then I realised when I done tests on it, it actually didn't run at 1.8 gigahertz. It was actually lower than what the marketing said. And loads of people still carried on buying it, and it still took over the market more than AMD. And AMD come in with the Athlon CPUs, and they used to run. So if they said they run at 2 gigahertz, it ran at 2 gigahertz, and it ran cooler, and you could do other things to overclock it. Like AMD always had a price per performance, and always started to catch up Intel. Before it used to be like that, and then AMD went chung, and then they went chung backwards because Intel started overtaking them and started making CPUs, and the marketing kind of matched up. But we've seen some shady practice with Intel when they paid a reviewer, very old school written blogger or whatever, and yeah, they said it done this, they said that, and they didn't do certain testing, and obviously Gamers Nexus went all in, and this is where he is today. It just shows that if you try to mug people off in the industry with all this marketing crap, then it's going to happen. No one's going to be stupid enough to spend their money. Like at the moment, Nvidia is putting out loads of graphics cards, and they're turning around and they're saying, look, buy our graphics cards, they're this much faster. But this is all marketing at the end of the day to sell their stuff. So when you go to buy it, at the end of the day, you're buying it, and then if it doesn't perform like what you want it to, then it's different. But and they're not really even talking about ray tracing as much. They're talking about ray tracing more on the 3090, which we're going to get to as well, because I found out some more information on that. But where are we? But now AMD have ray tracing, GPUs coming out, yeah. But also I've heard they're not meant to be on all GPUs. Yeah, ray tracing is not meant to be on all GPUs that I've heard before, so I'm not too sure about that. The Xbox would be locked on GPU usage, and desktops can throttle backwards and forwards. We talked about that. Let's talk about undervolting for a sec as well. Right, so let me just take a bit of water. Right, so undervolting is what I did on AMD Ryzen Zen 1 and Zen 2. Basically, I wanted to be able to overclock so I can get a stable overclock, and I went all in. When I mean extreme overclocking, that's what I did. I've done extreme overclocking for about a couple of weeks, and I've done it with an AIO rather than nitrogen, and I didn't do it with a CPU air cooler. At the time, AIOs were more better in frequency of keeping stuff cooler than the CPU air cooler, unless you're using a Noctua. But I had nice, good copper plates. I had everything set out properly. I went so far to obviously get to break and brick the computer, the motherboard, and then obviously dial back in all the BIOSes they had, and then report back to Asus and tell them like this BIOS is not working. What BIOS can we have? And all this sort of stuff. So I'd done all of that, and obviously I wanted to make sure that I think the AMD was running really hot. Like it was like the BIOS said one thing with the temperatures, and then on like CPU Z said another thing, and then we had temperatures linked up to the motherboard, and it said something else. It was just so crazy. But anyway, I did take off 2 cores and strike them off, and I got a better overclock and more stability, but I got lesser scores and lower performance because obviously I took off 2 cores, and I think I took off another 2 cores, but I can get higher clock speeds. So AMD back in Gen 1 and Gen 2 could actually get higher clock speeds if you dial back the cores, but the more cores you put, the more heat transfer was on there, and the more unstable it was. But anyway, that's a story that I did from back in the day. So I'm thinking that I think at the moment, like, there's tweets as well that I've seen from AMD. They're just sitting back, just relaxing. They're sitting back, relaxing. They're not phased about Nvidia's graphics cards. And like before, they did say that they want to be able to compete and all this sort of stuff. But I feel right here, right? So I'm not AMD fanboy, I'm not Nvidia fanboy, not Intel fanboy. I don't care about that stuff. I just want everyone to be on the same level and enjoy computers in the industry. Because when you don't enjoy computers in the industry, then there's no market for it, and then it starts to, like, people don't, the technology stays stagnated, not stagnated, that's not even a word, stagnated, yeah. So it doesn't go any further like it did with Intel with quad-core CPUs for all these years. But yeah, I think as well that AMD are undervolting their graphics card, and they've got something up their sleeve. I think their graphics cards are really powerful. There's a lot of people that would disagree with me and be Nvidia fanboys, whatever, but disagree. And even if you ain't a fanboy, you will still disagree that AMD are not going to be more powerful than Nvidia. But I just feel the way that the pattern is from all these years. I've been working with computers for like 20 odd years, and I've always been playing around with all systems with water cooling. Like, my first computer was CPU air cooled, and I went straight to custom water cooling because that's how much I liked mucking about with things and soldering pins together to get the better, more connection of voltage for overclocks. But anyway, I think they're slightly undervolting the test leaks that are up, and they're just going to be like bang in Nvidia's face. But Nvidia could be doing exactly the same, so I don't really know. It's all speculation. It's all rumours, not all rumours, but speculation and a bit of rumours, and what I know by the patterns that I've seen already. Because I tell you what, Nvidia's got some graphics cards that can actually use and utilise a lot of power. When it's got more power, it definitely does so much well. Does so much better. When I've overclocked like graphics cards, even some people that can't overclock the graphics cards that well, I've been able to overclock a little bit better, and I've been getting the frame rates per second, and I haven't been getting all the anti-aliasing, artifactoring that's going on the screen, and the games have been running all fine in that, but it does run hotter. That's another thing. If we get these graphics cards, eventually the majority of people in their hands, is the graphics card going to be noisy? I haven't really heard anyone talking about how loud the fan is because it's been on an open test bench. We need it inside a wide selection of cases so we can actually find out what it's actually like. But anyway, let's move on. But wait. Yeah, to shout money. Oh yeah. Now, this is the good part. Let me drink some water right now. Hey guys, as well, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like and share, and there's a Discord down below as well, because I'm obviously putting out links if anyone trying to get hold of a system build or even the graphics. We're making a great community together here, and I see a lot of people, you like this sort of content and like me talking about this sort of stuff, so I'm going to keep doing this around this, so it's definitely worth subscribing. Plus we fix problems, so when we get like all this stuff in to build these computers, we're going to test it, overclock it. I'm going to teach you how to overclock and be stable and show you the fan curves and this sort of stuff if you're interested in that as well. So it's definitely worth subscribing. But yeah, they've got NVMe, not NVMe, NV Link, right? Which is crazy because that means we've got SLI. And I've heard that there's a 3090 graphics card that it only works on. But it also says only works with 30 series graphics cards. So technically, back in the day, you could use one graphics card tier which is higher and one that was lower, right? So that would make sense. But you can't do it with this in SLI. So I don't know whether they're talking about that you can only use two 3090s in SLI, or there is going to be a 3090 and then there's going to be some other graphics cards that are going to be higher, like a TI or an Ultra or a Super, and then you'll be able to use that in SLI, because they're all. I do remember Jensen turning around and saying, why stop at one graphics card if you might as well just go out and just ball with two graphics cards and like just spend the money and get the performance. But I remember also back in the day, you only got, if like you were doing SLI, it went 100% speed, first graphics card, second graphics card 50%, and third graphics card like 15%. It was like really shockingly rubbish. And then if you look at it like this as well, if the new graphics cards come out and people get to test two of them, because no reviewer I've seen test two graphics cards, especially with the NV Link, it's going to be quite crazy. That could overturn and be something different, because I don't know, and I really don't know, if AMD have got two graphics cards they're thinking about doing crosshair. AEIB board partners, I don't even know if they actually know what's even going on as well. I need to find out and dig deep with that. Right. So yes, I'm thinking there's going to be more graphics cards that are going to be more high end than the 3090, 100%, because the NV Link, just find out for yourself, look on the web for NV Link, and you should find out that it should only work with those graphics cards. It's saying it can only work from a 3090, which indicates there should be more graphics cards coming out from Nvidia, which means that there's going to be definitely a war with all these graphics cards. But as AMD is just lying down and just sitting down, just not worried, and they're still waiting to October, that just says something. That really does to me. Years ago, you only had, I think I said this, years ago you had 15% more boost and having an extra GPU. I have no clue what they're planning in that realm. Also the 3090 only, but also, oh yeah, that's it. But also says series cards means even more power GPUs are coming out faster than the 3090. 8K gaming HDR. Now, they're not talking about that in the 3080, so the 3090 cannot be 10 to 15 frame rates per second more, because it wouldn't be powerful enough to be able to do 8K. 8K is extremely hard to be able to even look at that as a TV, let alone to do his gaming. It's ridiculous. Like the 3080 is made for 4K gaming at 60 frame rates per second, definitely at the lower end. 3090, I don't know whether they're talking about getting two graphics cards to be able to game at 8K. I can imagine gaming at 8K. That would be ridiculous. And HDR, do you know how hard that is to do that sort of stuff? In SLI, you're talking about £3,000 worth of graphics card, plus you need the NV Link as well to do that. I don't know how much anything like that's going to cost. It's all freaking nuts. It's nuts. But this is what they're saying. This is true. This is very true. I don't think I'm not too sure. One 39 RTX 3090, I don't think it's going to be able to do 8K gaming on its own. But if it can, it's going to be very, very powerful, which means that it's going to just leave the 3080. The 3080 is going to be like old school 4K stuff, and the 3090 is going to be all the way out like that. That means you can dial in and like dial into 4K and have even more frame rates per second. That means pro gamers can even play at better color ratio and polygons and stuff like that. They can, and frame rates per second and hertz and response time, depending on the monitor and all that sort of stuff as well. Right, so we're getting to the end of this now, hopefully. Right, so also they're also saying real-time ray tracing. So obviously it's marketing mumble jumble, but are they talking about, if it's actually real tracing, ray tracing? We're going to be on another level with the 3090, but we just have to wait. It's only till next week, Thursday at 2 p.m. They're going to release it. But as I'm saying, don't go out and buy it. Wait for the AMD, because you've got to wait for more stock. Wait for more stock, then there'll be a war, then the price will go down a little bit. But that all depends if Nvidia don't keep winning, because if they keep winning, then it will be still the same price. But then it will be more stock. There's more to fight with. Please do not go out and buy these graphics cards right now. Wait. If you can't wait, then go ahead. I'm still going to leave it in links in the description down below. I'm going to help you guys out. But I'm telling you, I don't want you to be upset, because this can actually happen where AMD can actually overthrow. I'm thinking they've got a graphics card, like it's definitely going to overthrow the 3090. But we're talking about 8K, ultra high definition, and also not ultra high definition, 8K HDR. And it's extremely hard to get that sort of stuff. It's crazy. It's making me sweat. That's how hard it is. Anyway, hey guys, how you doing? All the ones that are late coming in and all that. Subscribe, like, and share and all that sort of stuff. And I hope you're all doing and having a great day. I think 8K is a few years away just yet. It's not. You can buy what can you buy? You can buy 16K cameras. It's not at all out of date. If you're in the industry of the cinematography world, 8K is the norm. 6K is like the lowest. 4K is the consumer. So it's completely different. You think, obviously it's miles away or years away because the TV doesn't do that. But the boomers watch TV, but the youngsters don't. We watch Netflix and stuff like that. So if Netflix goes, right, this is going to be 8K, this is going to come out. Actually, we can buy 8K TV. So if 8K comes out, it's going to show like we can move to 8K just like that. And then all of a sudden, let's move to 16K. You're going to move to 16K. So it's all the people that can film in the industry, get out there, and then obviously it's going to change. That's the way things go. 144 FPS gaming 8K. I don't know about that. That's going to be extremely crazy. Extremely crazy. If we got a big, massive screen at 8K, or even a small screen at 8K, I think the DPI might have to change slightly as well in the mice. So that could be a new different thing as well. But anyway, let me just carry on quickly. But real-time ray tracing at that power is just ridiculous. Yeah, I've already talked about the GTX, what the equivalent is. So two GTX 1050 Ti's would be a GTX 10, wouldn't be a GTX 1060. Let's say 8 times 1050 Ti's is equal to nearly 4 GTX 1060s, which convert to the power of GTX 1070 or 1070 Ti, 1080 Ti, in between that, depending on the games and stuff in power. So that's what we're looking at. RX 5700 is basically the same as RTX 2060, and that is more like GTX 1070 Ti and 1080 Ti. So that's what the equivalent would be in the Xbox as well, which is not a bad graphics card. It's not a bad graphics card by a long shot. What is Intel doing? I'm going to have to look up and find out what Intel's doing and like report about that. Just find out what they're doing. Would you be annoyed that Nvidia slowed their graphics cards down against AMD? So they undervolted it or put different drivers out. Would you be annoyed? And would you be upset? Would you go with AMD? Would you be like, Nvidia, you taking a mick now? You've gone too far. You got robots on there buying up all the graphics cards. Last year you had Bitcoin buying all the graphics cards up. Sort it out. You've got machine learning and all that sort of stuff. You can fix this, Nvidia. Come on. Just asking you this question, not me. I've got to go to work. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for all the answers and information. No problems, Joey. That's all good. I'm going in a second anyway. I've just literally got one more thing to talk about. AMD already have reasonable line of CPUs and graphics cards, and they did not compete with last gen GPUs, which is like the 20 series. But that's the same thing that happened with Intel 2, and look what happened. They started to pull away from Intel and start taking over, and also in the professional world, they started doing that with servers. They had CPUs coming out of their ears and all different price points, and I think they're going to flood the market this time round, and I think Nvidia is going to be ready for that as well. That's why I'm saying to wait for the new CPUs and that. And also, why have I not talked about this? There's one more thing. Oh yeah, next problem is shipment and low stock in weeks to months of waiting as well. So some of you, this is going to be contradicting. It's like, yes, go out there and get your graphics cards, and no, don't get your graphics cards. The reason I say this is going to be left up to you in your own hands, because technically the climate that we're in at the moment means that you've seen the shipment, even like for Elgato, people wanting to get PCs and build them and do them all that, and stream and become gamers and content creators and whatever you want to talk about. All the Elgato stuff just went. Webcams went, lights went, microphones went, all decent microphones went, cheap microphones went. Do you know what I mean? Everything literally went. Even Go XLRs went. It's all crazy. So don't wait and do wait. But I think what's going to happen now in this generation right now, within October, I think it probably be best to get the stuff now, then you'd be happy if you can't wait. And the people that can wait a very long time, wait until October. That's what I'm going to say. And also, last thing, and I don't know why I haven't got it written down. This is weird. Right, so I've heard that AMD are dropping the 4000 series, going straight to 5000 series of CPUs. And they're going to be absolute monsters of CPU power. Because obviously it's on 7nm, and I think on last gen, they had like a memory module that they had space for another memory module on the 7nm. Plus we've had all these years to obviously get to that sort of performance. So in my eyes, it would be worth it to wait, because that CPU is not going to be bottlenecked. It's going to be faster than Intel. But I know Intel is meant to be coming up with something soon, but I've got to check that all out. Anyway, I've been on here so long. Subscribe, share, follow me on all social media platforms. Go into Discord as well. I'm going to have all updates. Check out the RTX 3080, where I've dropped some links and stuff, and I'm keeping you updated. I'm also speaking to Nvidia about what's happening with this shortage of graphics cards, but you know, like, we're in this climate. And I'm going to obviously try and speak to AMD and see what's going on there as well, because AMD look like the strong winners at the moment. Well, actually, in your eyes, Nvidia looks like the strong winner. This is why people are going to disagree, but I think AMD are going to definitely get very close and maybe pass them, and then next gen, they're going to definitely pass them, because they're going to be on 5nm. And I don't think Nvidia is there yet, but Nvidia are like still crazy into technology and science and going forward. So that's what's going to happen. Intel are like that as well, but they just need to sort it out. But anyway, hope all you guys have a great day. Check out all the other videos that I've done as well, and I'll see you all next tomorrow, because hopefully I will have enough information. Thanks for watching. Roger and out.